Good evening, everybody. How are you doing this Sunday evening? Welcome back to another episode of Carl's Conversations. Carl's Conversations is the safe place to have difficult conversations. And so here we go again. We're dealing with the same subject matter that we dealt with on Friday night. And our title is Election 2020. What have we learned about America? For all of you who didn't catch it on Friday night, I suggest that you go onto Carl's Conversations either on YouTube, or you can catch the Carl's Conversations Facebook page, or you can even go to my personal Facebook page and you'll see it. It was quite the lively conversation. And I expect that we'll have quite the lively conversation tonight because we've had a decision since the Friday night conversation. And let me tell you, there's a lot going on by way of elections. Some would even say it ain't over yet. We know that President Trump's camp is saying that it's not over. So yeah, Heather, I think one of your screens froze out, so we'll just dismiss that one.
Yes, please do. It kicked me out.
Yeah, so we kicked that one. All right, so I thank God for my panel tonight. And there is one more who may join us, depends on how much his homework he finishes. We have Mr. Lee Mooring, a tremendous person in our community, Miss Tia Terry and Miss Heather Hutchison. And I'm going to give the panel an opportunity to just tell you a few things about themselves. And Alyssa Middleton, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to start a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just going to send you the link and you can jump on with us. So we'll start with you, Lee. Just tell us something about yourself, sir.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, sir. I appreciate it. I am retired military, just retired here in the Virginia area. I own All About One Leadership Consulting, where we specialize in growing people in their communication skills and their leadership skills. We also have a ministry as well as photography. So we do a little shooting here and there. Also, active member of the NAACP, and just excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you, sir. Miss Tia Terry, tell us about yourself, young lady.
Hello, I am Tia Terry. I always, when I'm on these things, spare all the accolades. I'm just a concerned citizen who is very active when it comes to the overall health of, first of all, the community that I live in, and second of all, the communities beyond. So I am always excited to be able to add my 2 cents into any of these discussions from a realistic perspective. I try to keep it real. So I don't normally do all the accolades just so I can get to the meat of what's being discussed and I can be relatable.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Heather Hutchison, please tell us something about yourself, ma'am.
Hello. I'm glad to be back again. I love these conversations with Carl and his wife. They're always amazing. So I live in Stafford and have 4 kids who are growing up too fast. And I agree with Tia. I'm a concerned citizen and have been for a long, long time. So I'm using my voice loudly and hopefully with some hope to mostly speak to the white community and to help kind of bridge some gaps there and say some things that people who I love who are Black have been saying for a long time, but for some reason, white people have these filters on their ears that often filter out Black voices. And so I'm just kind of stepping in the middle into the gap to help out, to get people I love the time that they need. You know, this is your time. So that's what I do.
All right. Thank God for you. Thank God for all of you. I appreciate it. I wanted to start off just for a moment, just to kind of set the table here. The title of this episode is Election 2020. What have we learned about America? And I was just talking with Lee, and Heather came in the studio just before we started. I was saying that, a couple of things that I learned is, number one, there was a great turnout for this presidential election, which was really good. But if we examine a little further, I think we'd all agree we probably should have had several million more who were registered and who should have voted. I'm also a little taken aback by how many of us really have a lack of understanding of how our election process works, and how many people had no idea of how to get voter information, how to register, where to register, and what the deadlines were, and all this type of stuff. And I was just talking to Lee. Of course, Lee just retired out of the military, and for all of us who've been in the military, you know, when you're away, you do absentee voting, and when you come into the real world, you know, it's a whole different deal, and you are a bit lost in the sauce. I remember when I first separated from the military, I too, I was lost in the sauce, and I had to gather myself. So that aside, you know, us with all these smartphones, I wonder what kind of information we get from them to something that's so very important. And I also learned that there are a lot of people who have prior felony convictions who are not eligible to vote, but are not familiar with the process in their states to petition their government, their state government, to get their voter rights back. And also, as we can see from the numbers, the polls lied to us again, huh? Because according to the polls, there was going to be a landslide for President-elect Biden, but it did not happen like that at all. The election was much closer, which tells us, and even the Republicans picked up some seats in the House. And so that kind of tells us that, you know, America is not as far right or as far left as some of us thought. A lot of it is centrist, and you know, maybe that's something we can deal with. So I'm going to ask an open question, and you know, you guys jump on it as you will. What did you learn about America during this election? That's open for y'all. Whoever want to jump on it first.
Okay, so I'll just go. For me, what I learned, just as you mentioned, that so oftentimes we have heard growing up that once a convicted felon, that you always lose your rights, and that's not necessarily the case. You know, you can apply to have your rights restored, and you know, that's such a good thing. But I think a lot of people are of the mindset that, you know, if you become a convicted felon, that you lose your rights in this lifetime. Once you do your sentence and you've been released, or whatever the proper protocol is. You know, for me also, what I learned about this is that yet and still, as America, we are very divided. It is two Americas, unfortunately, within the 50 states. And I'm just really hoping and praying that we as people can do better. We need to be compassionate towards one another, understanding, not so quick to make judgment calls on people because they look a certain way. Or, you know, I think sometimes we just put people in the boxes that we're not entitled to put them in. We don't have a heaven or hell to put someone in. So maybe if we take the time to understand someone's story or their background, I think we can do better as people to assist one another. You know, the Bible says, do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. And that's my take.
All right. Who else? Go ahead, Tia.
I don't know if I necessarily learned anything per se, but what this election did show me is the power of numbers. And I will say, I'm not sure if you were saying about the Black turnout, but actually the Blacks turned out in numbers in this election. And, you know, we can thank that to a myriad of things. I mean, I don't know if you all knew, you know, LeBron James and all the other celebrities paid those millions for felons to be able to register and vote. Stacey Adams registered over 800,000 voters in this election season. So I believe, and I don't have my numbers in front of me, but I do recall looking at something that said Black people actually showed up to vote this year, even more so than when President Obama was elected. I do think that because of the times that we're in, it appeared to be different because of the mail-in ballots. However, Trump was the one who made all of the states wait until Election Day to count those ballots, even though I was kind of against that. I thought it made no sense. Why don't you count them before Election Day? So I think it appeared that it may have been not as many numbers, but that's because the mail-in ballots took so long to count. So it just seems like people weren't voting. So for me, I did learn if that is the word to use, that we showed up and showed out as Americans. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And I know that, it's, we try to make it a Democrat or Republican thing, but I actually think that as a whole, we showed up and showed out, because there are a lot of people who were not Democrats that voted Biden in.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that portion about the black voting bloc. Absolutely, there was turnout. What do you think, Heather, Lee? What did you guys learn?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with Tia. I'm not sure that there was any big revelation. It was a roller coaster of emotion, and I think the more we saw the push for Biden, it was interesting, to say the least, to watch the other side, for lack of a better word, start to melt down. I was really disappointed by the way some people who I felt like I've respected, maybe even from afar, kind of laid down to play in the dirt and call names. There's been a lot of aggressive rhetoric online and in media by the Trump team, I guess I would say. I think it's become obvious that at some level, the social media aspect and this whole being connected virtually has made it easier for people to relegate human beings to less than human, even more so than before. And so it makes it easier to hate what you don't understand, or what you're afraid of, or what you have no, connection to, when you can create a group of people as a group of something you don't get, when you don't have direct interaction with them already, and now you're even more isolated and filling your brain with all sorts of rhetoric, then it's really easy to dehumanize a group of people. And I think that got out of control over the last few years. And we're seeing some of the fruit of that, unfortunately.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Moore, what did you learn?
I would agree with everyone. I think that what I learned about this is that through this crisis, and I call it a crisis because where our country is right now. And I'm not talking about necessarily the politics, but with the corona and things that are going on, that the crisis, it really showed what I learned, who people really are. And like Heather had mentioned, it showed the ugliness in some people, and it just came out so freely. And, I think with social media these days, it's not like back in the day when you had something to say, you had to look somebody straight in the eye, man to man, woman to woman, and say what was on your mind. But this social media, we can hide behind these computers, and we can hide in our houses and say what's on our mind. And we can get really ugly. And I think during this process, what it showed me is that a lot of people really took their mask off. And that facade that they had up could only last for so long. But as we got into what was going on in the country, especially that COVID will wear you down a little bit. And so during this crisis, I think a lot of people, they could not keep up that facade of who they were. And ultimately, their true colors came out. And then the second thing that I learned briefly is that I thought that we should want to come out and vote. Like everybody else is mentioning, we had record number turnouts. But I think that, folks only come out or voice their opinion when it's an extreme situation where they're either far to the left or far to the right. Those folks in the middle with those neutral to just swaying, they don't tend to come out. But in this time, those record numbers, it showed me that the folks that came out to vote had a strong opinion.
Absolutely. Gary Holland brought up an excellent deal. And thank you, Brother Gary, for being on with us again. He said, have you all discussed the importance of the Georgia runoff? Critical. Georgia folks need to remain engaged in the civic process. And I'm going to deal with that specifically a little later. But something that you just said, Lee, I absolutely want to deal with. You're right. I think that President Trump was such a polarizing figure. And some of his rhetoric, some of his stances, in our opinion, his lack of dealing properly with the coronavirus, his lack of acknowledgement of a problem of systemic racism after what happened to Mr. Floyd. I think that drove a lot of people to the polls. But I am very interested to see what this is going to look like the next election cycle, even the midterm, when we get to 2022? Will people show up in record numbers again because we're engaged? Or is it going to take another polarizing figure or a worldwide or national issue to get us out? And I'm kind of wondering, how do we keep people engaged? How do we take everything that we learn about this time around and stay engaged? So I want to deal with that. Do you guys see that? How do we keep people engaged? And Tia, if you don't mind, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm a firm believer of when you know, you know. And I think voter literacy had a lot to do with this. I actually am. I saw Gary's question as well. I'm actually from Georgia, a product of Georgia, born and raised, uprooted in Georgia. So I know personally from my family, they were empowered as I gave them knowledge of it. And when I say family, I'm not even talking about those in my generation. A lot of this stuff is deep rooted. I have family members who are 80, 90, 100 plus years old. And you had so many of those generations who, for the first time, voted, even in this election. We still have that. We still have 100-year-olds and 90-year-olds who are just voting for the first time. So I do think that a great deal of those will continue to be engaged now that they are empowered and they see the power. When you see the results, it's like there's no turning back. You know that you know just how powerful your vote is. And then from the perspective of those who have been rushed, over 800,000 people, that is a huge number to still be registering in an election of new voters. So that tells you right there the mentality or even the suppression, because intimidation, all of these things we talked about before, kept a lot of these same people from voting and just simply just not knowing better. So I think that because we have crossed over that hump, I think we will start seeing a difference. I mean, Georgia, 30 years, never been blue. That's crazy.
That's a change, right? I find it amazing that even in 2020, there are still these veiled attempts at voter suppression and voter intimidation. Some of it is not even veiled. So what say you, Ms. Heather, as far as how do we keep people engaged?
I think Tia's right. I think it's on those of us who are incredibly impassioned about it. There's a large group of us across the country who, this passion didn't just start with the murder of Mr. Floyd. It's just that seemed to be when white America woke up at some level. And so there was an opportunity. And a lot of us have seized on that opportunity to start this conversation and the protesting and the political involvement and the community involvement. And it has sustained, from March until now, and it has sustained well. But I think that those of us who are just incredibly impassioned about it, we don't stop. And so, we take the responsibility and we lead others with how important this is. You guys with enough, it was amazing to me, all the events that you all had people there, and Miss Kim Cummings was there so that you could register to vote right there. Like, you made it on site. Don't even have to worry about it. You don't get online. You don't have to go to the DMV. Just do it right now. And I think that's important. I think people often mean to go register to do it, or like you've said, maybe don't exactly. It feels intimidating because they don't know the process. And just having that one-on-one communication, and this is, she's great at that. This is what you do. This is what the issues are. I think that's critical. And I think the rest of us just continue talking loudly and in groups and continue educating and bringing this information to the forefront. But I do think it's different this time. I think, like, as well as what Tia said, I think, as a white person looking in, I think the Black community is like, wait a minute, we can do this. Like, do you see what we did? And rightfully so, because you guys are a powerhouse and your voices need to be heard. And so I think this has been as much a victory for the Black community just as a whole, setting the politics aside, just to even have proven to yourselves, like, look what we can do when we work together. And I pray and hope and believe that will continue, because I think I think America will look different. The fact that Dave Chappelle can say what he said on Saturday Night Live, which needed to be said was very well done. I looked at my boyfriend, who's not a white man, and I said, this is incredible. I'm ready for this America. Yeah. I'm ready to start tiptoeing around, stop tiptoeing around white people's feelings. And white people have no idea how much that conversation has been happening behind the scenes that we don't get to be a part of. And now more and more Black people are saying things out loud that they've been, saying to maybe a select few white people for years. And now we get to hear it. And some people, it's going to blow their minds, and their minds need to be blown. So I think we're rounding a curve that looks a little different, and we just need to keep pushing it and pushing it.
I agree. As the young folks say, we here for it. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Tia. Go ahead.
Can I say something before you go on, Lee? Because I don't want to miss it. And Elisa said it when she talked about congratulating Stacey Abrams. And this is also a subject that's close to me, walking in purpose. Stacey walked in purpose, coming off of a defeat. When people thought that she should be running for, a governor. I mean, when she lost that race, and then they thought she should, move on and run. And so what she did was she decided, I am best needed here. She walked in her purpose. And that's what that one, I won't say one person, because of course she had a team, but that decision made all the difference. And as Heather was speaking about the Black vote, her trying to get those 800,000 people registered, I'm sure was not easy, because when you deal with the African American community, you're dealing with years, especially in the South, you're dealing with years of oppression, years of the poverty mentality, years of that bondage that you have to, that mental bondage that you have to pull people out of to even get to this point. So that is huge. So I wanted to make sure that I touched on that, because Elisa called it out. And Stacey could have went on to do anything else, but she chose to stay at the base and make the difference at this lower level per se. So that is huge. That's the importance of walking in purpose and not doing what people think you should do.
Amen. All right, Mr. Lee, thank you for that, T. I appreciate it.
You know what? I'm glad, Ms. T. I'm glad you went before me, because you said something I thought there was vital about purpose. And the thought I initially had is that, we need to keep the ball rolling, keep the momentum, because when the ball stops, it's so hard to get it going again. And right now you have so many organizations, especially here locally. You have Enough, you have Carl's Conversation, you have the Stafford Black, NAACP, everyone moving in the right direction and moving together. And I think that that's vital. And my thought are along these lines, that when Ms. Tia, when you talked about purpose, to me, what that means is, especially for these folks who might have been standing on the sidelines, they came out to vote. Now they see that their vote actually made a difference and that they can have an impact. So my thought is that as they see folks who are out there on the front lines doing things, that they will want to get involved, because, it's going to be just that little nudging in their spirit that's telling them that I have a purpose. And my purpose is this cause. My purpose is to do greater things. And hopefully this will just spur them to want to get involved and to fully step into that purpose. Because if we think about it, just imagine if everybody was operating in their gifting, where we would be as a country, where we would be as a community. So hopefully people will be encouraged and they will step into that, because we've all had these, we know that folks are out there just sitting on the sidelines, and they just want to get involved. I'm going to just use a simple analogy. It's like when you were a kid and you went to a dance and you stood against the wall and you were like, man, I can dance too, but you don't want to get in there. But then when you go home, you're like, oh, you go and dance. Maybe that was just me. But this is an opportunity for folks that know they have the ability, know that they can make a difference, to answer that calling that God has put on their lives and step out into their community so that they can help make a difference.
All right, thank you for that. And listen, since this thing is so hot with Stacey Abrams and Georgia, I want to go right into it. We done tiptoed around it. Let's jump into it. I think what Stacey Abrams did in the state of Georgia is magnificent. Starting with her run for governor, I think that she realized that even though she just barely missed it, and even that is up for question, right? So like it was a little funny math down there, but she stayed engaged. And Tia, you were right. I think that she saw her greater purpose, and she just jumped in. I love what the point that Gary just made. What are we going to do here in Virginia? Don't worry, Gary. We're going to deal with that too on this show tonight. So because I want to galvanize people. Georgia is an interesting place. The count still goes on there. It looks to me that it's trending towards Biden pulling that state out too. To be quite honest with you, even though I was on pins and needles a little bit, kind of wanting to know what was going on, I absolutely respect the fact that all of the states, it appears, did what was necessary to make sure that the count was right. I'm more interested in making sure that the count was right and that no laws were broken and that there was no fraud, way more than I'm interested in having a quick answer. And so Georgia is an important place because both of those Senate seats are going to have to go to a runoff on January 5th, because Georgia law says that during the general election, you must get at least 50% of the vote. If not, there must be a runoff. And that just means they're just going to drop off those other candidates and run just the top two vote getters. And so that's very important. If you are a Democrat, or if you want the Democrats to have control of the Senate, this is very, very important to you. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Lee, and just ask you, what are you thinking about what's going on down here in Georgia as far as those two Senate seats, and also how you feeling about what Ms. Abrams has done and what can we do here in Virginia?
I say it's an opportunity for us to get behind that state. We were pushing so many people to get out and vote, and now the focus is on Georgia. And I think that we go back to seeing how people made a difference. So now's an opportunity more than ever for us to, especially the African American community, to put our prayers, put our effort, put our energy, put our finances behind Georgia so that we can make a difference, because it's almost like we're just so close. Just imagine how amazing it would be to have a Democratic president, a Democratic Congress, a Democratic Senate. Think about how much we could get done if that were to happen. And so I know a lot of folks don't want to see that. They're going to say, well, it's an imbalance of power. You don't have your checks and balances. Well, you know what? I think that if that's going to happen, and that's what God ordains to happen. And as far as Ms. Abrams, I think that it's an example to all of us to stay engaged. And we may get tired, we may get run down, we may get beat up, and we may have some losses, but we have to stay engaged. And that's just perseverance, and that's resilience, and that's an example to our country, example to young people, to little boys, to little girls, to stay engaged and not to quit and fall out, because so many times these days everybody gets a trophy. Well, this is an example where not everybody got a trophy, but you still stay engaged. So I think it's a great example for our nation.
Thank you. Ms. Heather, what about you?
Well, I mean, I just love Miss Abrams. I like what Elisa, I think, said in the comments, that she took the loss with dignity. And I think that's something I don't even know. I don't have words for that. We're not used to seeing that in a country on that level of taking a loss with dignity and grace and power and determination and character, and just keep on rolling, and not only keep on rolling, but come out of nowhere and just, she's made a huge difference, and she's going to go places. And I think we're blessed to have her. I lived in Georgia for almost 7 years. I was married to a Marine, and we lived in Albany, which is, a bizarre place, and is incredibly segregated on both sides. Neither, a lot of Black people, a lot of white people, both don't want to have anything to do with each other. So as I've watched, Georgia counting up all the votes and seeing that it might turn blue, I just, it goes so far past just the modern day politics. Anything about the history of Georgia, and there's so much there. And I think about just the history of having lived in Albany and being part of that community for so long. That was one of the main slave trade hubs for our entire United States. And there's still an atmosphere there that is heavy and that is, oppressive. And I just think that having the opportunity to switch that to a blue state, and like you were saying earlier, Carl, to give that hope, and that my voice meant something, my vote meant something. We can actually do something about this. I think more than anything, this election is instilling hope in people who had gotten to the place where they felt like nothing they did would matter, that wasn't going to make a difference. Why get involved? And now it's this just ember of hope of like, if we really want it, we can do it. And there's a lot of us out there. We're not alone. It's not one single minority who's doing this by themselves. They're sprouting up all over the country, as they should. And I'm excited. I hope it stays blue. I think it would be monumental. I think there's a lot more to it than just the presidential and House race right now. I think it's power. It's power.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather. Miss Tia, where you at with this one?
Stacey was playing chess. she had her.
That's right.
She had her sights set, and she did it twofold. She ushered her sister right on through that White House, and she has not stopped since. So I am confident that the next talk that's on the streets right now is January in this runoff election. Georgia, I mean, I don't know about any other state. I was just trying to sit here and think about it, because as they said, a lot of these underprivileged areas, city areas, were key to this race. The Philadelphias, the Detroits, the Chicagos, the Atlantas, all of those cities. And Georgia, actually, I was just trying to think, and I lived in Georgia my whole life for the most part, and I have family pretty much all throughout it. And there's not many cities in Georgia that doesn't have a lot of African American people. So getting them registered and getting them out there, like I said, was key. I mean, that's why I threw out that number 800,000, because that just shows you just how heavily populated Georgia is. So I have no doubt, and I was even trying to think, have I seen her on an interview since all of this? I don't think I've even seen her give an interview yet. I mean, I think that she is playing chess. She's not getting fooled by what's going on right now. She knows there's a bigger fish to fry with this runoff coming up in January. And I have no doubt that they are strategizing and trying to get it done. So I just stand in anticipation on what we're about to see come up out of Georgia. I'm almost ready to move back. Almost.
Almost. Not all the way, almost. That is awesome. I want to stay with Stacey Abrams just for a moment. Where do you see her in the Biden cabinet? Do you see a place for her? I think the answer probably yes, but where? Heather, I'll start with you.
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like after what Tia said, I agree. I think she's absolutely playing chess and is a brilliant woman. I think that she probably will have a lot of opportunities to choose from. But as far as him placing her in the cabinet, that's a good question. I don't know, because I think she's drawn enough attention to herself without meaning to, just by doing what she's gifted at, that she needs to be careful about the route she takes, because we would like to see it take her up to, vice presidency or the presidency if possible.
Right.
So that's a good question. I don't know. I'd like to hear some other thoughts, because I definitely think that chief of staff would be nice. Have a good chief of staff in the office, the White House again. What would that look like?
There you go. There you go.
I think that's fantastic, but I do hope he places her in a position that's in a counseled position, where she's an advisor to him. I do. Chief of staff sounds great, though. I like that.
Oh yeah. What do you think, Lee?
I'm not quite sure. Just like Heather mentioned, perhaps chief of staff. I believe that based on what has happened over the last 4 years, that the team that Biden selects is going to be very knowledgeable of whatever realm or whatever area they're over. And I think that's going to be vital for his success and to show the country that he has control. So if she is on his cabinet or not, I believe that in both scenarios, she is going to play a vital role in the future of the party.
All right, thank you. Tia, what are you thinking? Where should Stacey serve in the cabinet?
I agree. I think a couple of positions come in mind. Chief of staff, I think would be a good position for her because the chief of staff kind of handles all the behind the scenes. They're critical in the background, and she seems to like to serve there. She seems to flourish in the background, putting out the small fires, if you will, in the grand scheme of things. So I think that would be a great position for her. I was actually thinking with her personality, foreign affairs, but I don't think they're quite ready for that yet. That would be the only thing about putting her in that position. And then I also thought about Secretary of State, which was the position that Hillary Clinton held. I think that would be a great position for her as well. But I would, because of the damage that we've done to this to our allies, I think that is going to be a critical position to fill, and also Department of Justice, because we know kind of Eric Holder kind of failed us, but I don't think she's going to quite go there. So when you think about realism, I would say Chief of Staff or Secretary of State.
Awesome. All right. Here's one of the $1,000,000 questions. You knew we couldn't escape tonight without talking about it. So from some members of the Trump campaign, they have stated that tomorrow morning they will make some things public about their next moves with some legal action, because they have declared, and from what I understand from watching some stuff today, there have been some people who signed affidavits saying they have witnessed some fraud and cheating in various places. He is not yet ready to concede. And he has said, he's made statements, I think, on Twitter, that this is far from over. Where do you stand with it? Do you think that, or have you heard of any significant fraud or cheating? What do you think is really going on with that? And Lee, I want to start with you on this one, sir.
I haven't been following this too closely, but I was reading an article today, and it was talking about here in Virginia how there were, someone had mentioned how I guess there were X amount of votes for Biden. And of course, the state went blue. But then they compared those votes that went to Biden versus the votes that went to Kasem, and they were significantly less. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Moving forward, I didn't think that if we were in this predicament where Trump was lost, I didn't think that he was going to go out without a fight. And, I'm just afraid of these next, 76 days that we have left, and possibly beyond, of what he is capable of. And so it kind of scares me. I think that every tactic possible is going to come out. I think there's still some ugliness that's going to rear its head. And I just pray that, I don't want anybody to win the election just because of some fraud. However, what upsets me is the fact that, we had these issues at the last election when they brought up about Russia being involved and all those things. And, the Republicans just wanted to sweep it under the rug. Oh, let's just push it to the side. But now that the shoe is on the other foot, it's kind of like, let's address it. No, we need to take legal actions. And, I want the election to be right. And if this is the process that it has to go through to justify it, then just allow it to not be as ugly as it possibly could be.
Got it. Tia, what are you thinking?
I'm going to say what I say on every show that I've been on with you. I don't take Trump serious. I just don't. When he does his little tantrums, when he does his stunts, I just shake my head like I'm doing right now and just keep it pushing, because certain things we just expect. I mean, we should be at a point now we expect nothing less from him. He's not going to go down without a fight. He's a narcissist, so he does not like defeat. So none of this is unexpected. However, I will tell you this, two things. You can't stop what God has for you. And number two, three things. And number two, they've said over and over again that they've had representatives from both parties there counting these votes. So it was a lot of oversight in this, particularly because of the mail-in ballots. They were paper ballots. And then number three, um, it's telling when your party starts to speak out and when your party goes silent and when your own son-in-law, who's your senior advisor, is trying to coerce you into conceding. That's very telling. When they started interviewing the Republican Party, I don't know if you all seen the speech, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of you, Carl, but the speech where they ended up cutting Trump off. They immediately started interviewing the party, and they were backpedaling like they were Olympic swimmers. I mean, they did not want to touch it. So I think it's very telling when your party starts to unravel right before us. And then, like I mentioned before, I think the last thing I just read in CNN was that his son-in-law is trying to convince him to concede. So that, even though he got his legal team on the ground, your senior advisor is pretty up close and personal. I think that speaks volumes.
Heather, I'm gonna come back and get you. Tisha wants to chime in on this one.
Okay. I just wanted to chime in. I would also agree with what Tia said. I too believe that he is a narcissist. I didn't go to nobody's medical school where I can go and diagnose. But to me, what I foresee is that he is the type of person or personality. I think we have like 76 days before January 20th or 21. You have a narcissist where they will do anything at all costs to destroy. Okay, a decision has been made. It is said that, President-elect Biden, he is the type of personality, like I said, that will destroy it, give it to you in shambles, and is okay with that. I too also agree that, yes, I think that he is going to get his legal team involved, but I think according to law, and of course I didn't go to law school either, but you have the burden of proof to go and say, if you're making these claims, you have to provide the proof. And my understanding, what I've seen thus far, is that those claims have, turned out to be baseless. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Tia and say, and that's it's really sad that when you are the commander of chiefs currently, that your word is not your bond. We come from the school of say what you mean what you say. Your reputation speaks for you, who you are. Your reputation should never precede you. People should know, you are a person of character. And unfortunately for me, he has not shown that. Tells you one thing, does something other. Everything was constantly a hoax, so at this point, nothing really surprises me. And it's like grasping at straws. And, for me, okay, I think you should do things the right way. And I too also agree that if the election, it should be done fairly, it should be done properly. If there is any fraud, people should be persecuted or prosecuted to the fullest extent, because there should not be any type of fraud. I also agree that they've taken great steps to make sure that everything was accounted for. So that's my little tidbit.
There it is. All right, Heather, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he can throw a tantrum all he wants. Like Tia said, okay. I mean, you can do what you want. The problem I see with it is, he's saying he's going to bring all these lawsuits and, whatever, great, pay all these lawyers to try to start lawsuits. The problem is that gives some of the followers who are even less likely to pay attention to possibly logical thinking, room to be irritated. And I think that's all it is. I think as a narcissist, like Tisha was saying, that's what he wants, is he wants a group of people who are going to follow along behind him. He knows he lost. He knows he's not going to be able to keep this position. And if he can go out with people still cheering for him, fighting for him, yelling in the streets for him, then he's going to do whatever he has to do to make that happen. And by speaking the language that they need to hear, you know, with dog whistles, with coded language, with the, you know, woe is me, they're stealing from you. I mean, the last thing white people want is to think that somebody's infringing on our rights. You know, it's just so ironic. But that really will rile up a white person, which is why we have this mask issue. That's the only problem I see, is that his followers are going to be emboldened by him spreading all this lies that I don't even think he believes himself. He knows he lost. You know, he's just trying to get those accolades as he's on his way out the door. I am excited that all the cases he's tried to bring so far have been kicked out. I think that with this projected win and what looks like it's, you know, in the bag, has emboldened some people who maybe a couple of years ago would have been a little more afraid. And I feel like the farther away we get from this, more and more people will be emboldened to speak up against him, you know. So my hope is that there's solidarity even in the justice system, that they all look at each other and say, listen, man, if you're going to try to bring a lawsuit against some fraud, you need to come with evidence. It's, you know, the onus is on you for you to have to prove that there's a reason for us to have, you know, a lawsuit here, because otherwise you got nothing. Come back when you have some evidence. And so far he has none. And if he did, he would be all over our television screens right now, waving it around, telling us what it was. He doesn't. He just keeps using the language that ignites the people, like the comment just was, of people that drove up from Virginia thinking that they're, you know, defending their king, I guess, who really couldn't care less about them. So, yeah, he can throw a tantrum all he wants, but I don't know that it's going to go anywhere.
Yeah. You know, Gary made a... Go ahead.
And that Gary just brought up, and I roll with Gary, but I'm going to challenge something that he said just now with the Republicans. I actually don't think the Republicans as a whole is rolling with him. And maybe I'm naive, but I think that they have the appearance that they are. But I think that there are a lot of Republicans who have gone mute. They don't want to jeopardize their party. You're absolutely correct. But I believe, because you couldn't have these record numbers like we're having if Republicans were all for Trump. You can't have this, what's this campaign that stood up Republicans against Trump? I mean, so I do think that, and I don't vote, I think we talked about this last time, I don't vote party lines. Like, I don't associate, I go with common sense. And so, and what my integrity says, what my morals, what my values say. So, and then as we've had to do a lot, is choose the lesser of the two evils, pretty much. But this was just blatantly evil, so it was a no-brainer. So, but the other thing about it is also, and the reason why I think they cut his speech off is because he's not even thinking of how we are looking to the outer world. Like, to dismantle the election process, to talk about, you know, all the fraud and the crooks and all. You're on a worldwide platform and you're exposing the United States of America to so much. You're just showing just our level of weakness. And I think that this is showing that, as Van Jones says, character matters. You're just really showing the character of who you are. And unfortunately for us who have to live here, it has made us so vulnerable to the rest of the world. So he just... Why he won't concede? Well, I do know why he won't concede, but I think that I pray that his camp will get him to let this go at some point. But knowing Trump, he's not gonna go down. He's gonna go down in flames. You're gonna have to burn him down at that White House.
Monica says, "Somebody please change the code. Some of the nuclear codes." Well, I'm gonna chime in on that comment, what Gary wrote, and also what you just said, Tia, because I think there's a story behind that 70 million number. So, and you too, Elise, and maybe we can make some hay with this thing. I think that many of the Republican elected officials, especially at the national level, and some even on the state level, because they know a lot of things behind the scenes. If you remember, the Republican establishment rejected Trump in 2015, 2016. Trump was successful because he took his argument to the people. That 70 million represent a portion of our population who feel despondent, rejected, like nobody cared for them, the Democrats or the Republicans, and he spoke their language. And many of the politicians have been silent because the power of the people is a real thing. So Gary had asked the question earlier too, is it time, for reconciliation? So I think that a couple things here. I said this in 2016. I've been saying it. This is to my Democrat friends. I'm like you, Tia. I don't belong to the parties. I'm fiercely independent. I don't vote down party lines. I vote for the candidate I think is the best. If you're a Democrat, you ought to have been asking yourself in 2016, how in the world did those same counties all throughout America who traditionally vote Republican, how did Obama turn them in 08 and 12? And why was Trump able to turn them back in 16? You can't tell me all of that was race. All of that is not race. We know that there are some severe racists and very vocal racists who support Trump. That's not a new thing, and he supports them. He's been very open about that. But all of those 70 million who voted for him, not all that was based on race. There are some other issues, and I'm gonna throw a couple of them out there: the abortion issue, the economic issue, fiscal economics, gay rights. These are really big issues. There's just a couple of them, right? So, and there's some other things too. Some people just are traditional conservatives, traditional Republicans, and they believe in that party platform. Now, I'm not coming in defense of anybody. And all I get an understanding that 70 million number is a big number, right? You got to understand. So, to Gary's question, is it time to reconcile? I think in many areas, yes, because the country is so deeply divided. We need a father figure now. And if we had a woman who had been elected, I would say we need a mother figure. There's going to be some areas where we can have common ground, we can have agreement, and we can really change the way we communicate. That absolutely can happen. But there are also some areas where I think that there are going to be some on the other side of the Democrats that are going to severely fight them. So reconcile, in other words, change our tone, change how we speak, but you got to stand firm because the country did elect Joe and Kamala, and they expect for Joe and Kamala to lead. Even the Republicans who voted for him, who've already made it very clear, we're probably going to disagree with him on policy, but we believe he's a good man and he'll do what's right. I can accept that. I have no issue with that. So, Tia, I'm gonna start with you. That 70 million number, what does that mean to you? And also, what do you say about, is it time to start the reconciliation process in our country?
So, again, just the way I kind of think, the way my brain works. That 70 million don't really move me per se, because you're never going to have all. You're going to always have some who just won't go. Just won't go. I mean, they even had it when Harriet Tubman was trying to free slaves. You had some just won't go. They're just not going to go. And so I don't focus my thoughts on that. I focus the thoughts on the people that these last 4 years impacted, and not just Black people. We talk about George Floyd and the significance of us being in the middle of a pandemic that was the gateway to an awakening happening across the country. I think that there's beauty in chaos and tragedy sometimes, actually all the time. And the beauty in this is that people have, for the past 3.5 years, those who are of reasonable mind, those who have any type of a heart or conscience, those who have any type of sensibility to themselves, see the evil that has rose up out of the background, or the underground of this country, whether it's racism, where it's just blatant disrespect, whether it's all of these, it was just evil. That's the only word I could think about. It's just evil in a magnitude that I think we have not seen before. And I think those, even white people, other races, they have looked, and that's where the turn came in. Like, oh my God, is this the country I live in? My kids have to live in this community. Do I want my kids going to school with this type of hate? Do I want this ingrained in them? So I think that the same awakening that happened with George Floyd is what has happened with this election. And I think that's what showed up at the polls on November 3rd and all of the mail-in ballots. So the 70 million, I try not to focus on that piece because, again, there's some that just aren't going to go. So I'm not going to give my energy to that. I'm going to continue to nourish and cultivate those who have now come into the realization that we can no longer get here before. And sometimes you have to see that evil. You have to see it's a necessary evil. You have to see this is bad. And you know, I try not to always bring God into conversations, but sometimes he's going to bring you through this ugly so that you can appreciate where you were before. Because if we think about the climate of the country when we were electing a black president, it was like, oh no, not a black president. We're not doing that. We're not ready for that. It was all kinds of nonsense. Okay, so let me give you this. So now this is what you have. You have Pharaoh sitting on the throne. So let me let you have Pharaoh for 4 years. And now let's see where you are. So maybe now we will appreciate, you know, where we come in. Because I think even Trump getting into office, they just could not see. Now, we done gave y'all the first black president. Now we ain't ready to give you the woman. The first woman. So, you know, we had some of those votes going that way. Even women. They were like, we don't want women. You know, so that's how he skated in the White House anyway. You know, but it was a necessary evil. So I definitely think that Joe Biden, for the first at least year of his presidency, he's going to have to heal this country. He's going to have to do some things to restore the hope, to restore the trust in the American people, because a lot of damage has been done in the last 3.5 years.
Amen. Thank you for that, Tia. Lee, what do you think?
Wow, I have to follow Miss Tia. Wow. Wow. You know, I like how you talked about that wake up call. The thoughts that come to my mind when I think about this reconciliation is that the Biden team needs to have that olive branch reaching across the aisle and have a sincerity about that. And it's funny because now on my Facebook feed, I see from all my Republican friends, they say, oh, now we need to work together. But they weren't saying this a couple weeks ago. So I think first and foremost, you know, that wake up call is Biden saying, you know what, I'm going to do things differently. And moving forward, that reconciliation, I believe this, we've heard this analogy of, you know, the neighborhood, there's a house on fire. And right now in our country, I believe there's some fires that are going on in some houses. And I think that Biden needs to address those fires. First and foremost, the COVID. The COVID is a fire that's going on right now. Then I would say coming in second is racism. And I think in him addressing those fires, that him extending that olive branch across the aisle to pull in the Republicans is going to show them that, hey, we're not pushing you all away. We're trying to include you into this process because different perspective, that's what makes our country great, this diversity. So if we have a single democratic way of thinking, we're not going to get there. We need some Republicans on the other side of the aisle that have some ideas, see things from a different perspective. So having that olive branch, reaching it across to say, hey, let's fight this COVID. Let's get on it. We're going to bring y'all onto this team. It's not just filled up with Democratic doctors and scientists, but no, we're going to reach across the aisle, come into the fold. Let's do this together. Let's show this nation that we can make a change. And, you know, there's some Republicans out there that just want to stay there. They're always going to stay there because they have their fan base. They gotta be loyal. They gotta be strong. They gotta be that one that always says no matter if it's black, then they're going to say white or vice versa. But there are some Republicans out there, like Ms. Tia was mentioning, there's some out there who are tired of the way things were. Those seem like the ones that want to make a difference, reach out to them in the beginning, not down the road, in the beginning when you're setting up your team. Reach across the aisle, bring them into the fold, let them know, look, your voice matters. Together, we're going to, you know what, this is not just the one alarm fire.
That's right.
It's a 2 alarm, it's a 3 alarm fire. It's bringing everybody into the fold so that we can make a difference. The more ideas we have, we are going to we're going to put this fire out in COVID, and we're going to put it out completely. It's not going to come back again. And if it happens to, we're ready because we have a plan. Then we're going to fight racism. Then we're going to go down the line, but we did it together. And I think that is the key to reconciliation, is that reaching across the party lines from the beginning and bringing letting a diversity at your table, because it hasn't been looking that way for the last 3.5 years. There's been no diversity at that table, and that's what needs to come to bring reconciliation.
Heather, right before I bring you in, I want to answer this question by Gary. And thanks, Rod Ashby, for coming on, brother. I hope you stay with us. That's one of my childhood friends. Been knowing him since I was about 2 or 3 years old. Gary asked this question: do y'all really truly think the nation can come together to a significant degree? And Gary, I'm gonna answer this question like this: I think all who want to come together can. And I have a little saying, and this is not according to the scripture, this is according to the book of Carl, chapter 3, verse 47 and 48. Some will, some won't, and so what? Let's work with those who are willing to work with us. Some of them will get on the first pass. Some will sit on the sidelines to see how successful you are. They'll see how fair you are. They'll see how you run your camp. And if they see something positive, they'll jump on. Not that they were against you. They were just kind of skeptical because they're not familiar with you, and they'll jump on. Others will always sit on the sideline and do like my man did when when he was marching alongside King David. They will kick dust, throw rocks, and curse. It doesn't matter what you do. So that's my take on it. All right. So Heather, what do you think, my friend? I know that's a whole lot, but you got the microphone.
Great. And the rest of you guys said some amazing things. I think now that my anger has, calmed, and I've allowed some compassion to flood back in over the last few months. I do recognize that there are a lot of people who voted for Trump based solely on one issue or a handful of issues, who didn't like him, don't think he has good character. I read an article that one of my friends who I'd known from church probably 20 years ago, who's liked a lot of the things that I've posted, but she posted an article written by, I don't know, some Christian author. And he was basically saying that as a Christian, I think he has horrible character. It's awful, but we have to vote for him because of X. And that's very powerful in white evangelical land. When I was really little, I protested with my mom and dad against abortion, not outside abortion clinics, but downtown. We did that a couple of times until my parents got a little more mature and realized that's probably not the best way to love people in action, and we didn't do it again. But then as I was in my teenage years, that was you vote this issue no matter what. And then you get a little older and you start to realize it's really not that simple. And it's really not about just, babies in the womb. And there's a lot of rhetoric that's thrown around that sounds really scary. But this is what Jesus wants us to do. And if Jesus wants us to do this, then I can't say back, well, I don't really think that, because Jesus said, if you're telling me Jesus said, then what's my response? So I do think that there is a demographic of people who don't like him, who think that the country is going in not such a great direction under his leadership. But they voted for a couple of reasons that really, at this point, it's not making or breaking the country anymore. We have so many other fires, like Lee was saying, that need to be attended to. That's a cop out at this point. And unfortunately, people are being led astray because that's an easy scapegoat. Let's follow this direction because this is so horrible and it's distracting you from the real fire that's going on over here. So I think as far as reconciliation, I agree with you, Carl. I think that For the most part, it'll be people who want to reconcile. I think there will always be people who kind of surprise you and come out of nowhere, who are listening, who maybe see themselves as haters at the moment. But it goes back into the Saul Paul thing. There can be these big conversions of people that you thought, oh my gosh, I never thought they would think the way I do or see things the way I do, and they do come, and when they come, they tend to bring people with them. But I think as a whole, there are a tight knit group of people who love this man who's been in office, which is bizarre to me, but follow him blindly. And I think, what are you going to do when the next, election comes up? What? Nobody has ever been this bizarre. Who are you possibly going to follow at this point? Anyway, and then I think there are some who just felt like, my moral values, and I'm not trying to make fun of them, but I'm not trying to mock. It's ignorance in the fact of that's all the information that they have, I guess, that I have to vote for this man because he claims to support, I can't even say it with a straight face. Anyway, and then I think there's people who voted for Biden just because they hate, Trump so much, but they also hate Biden's policies. I think there's more of us in the middle than there are on either extremes. And we just have to start being bold enough to talk about it and to not jump. We hear certain words and we have this triggered reaction until we realize, oh, that's not like I read multiple articles where it starts out the first couple of paragraphs. And I'm like, oh no, this is horrible. And then you finish the article and realize that's not the direction they were going at all. We all just need to be a little slower to respond and quick to listen and come together that way. But it's going to take time, and they're going to have to lead well from the top. I would not want to be in their shoes at the moment.
Amen to that. Tia, you had something to add?
Yeah. So America, we've been in a domestic violent relationship. We've been traumatized. And so I think that I was just sitting here thinking about when I talked about, how Black people have been oppressed for so long. So mentally we had a hump to get over. Well, I'm just going to step out against popular opinion and unpopular opinion probably, and say that racists also experience the same. I say that because I have a friend who's white, and her grandfather, the same 80 to 100-year-old that I speak of, that were still in their mind oppressed in the South, her grandfather is the same, and he's racist, and she has biracial children from a Black person, and he won't see the children. They do not see him. He refuses to see them, and it's something that she has accepted now because, again, he can't get over that hump. So we still have those people who are ingrained in this country, but we have a Black female vice president in 2021.
Amen to
Change
that.
is happening whether you like it or not. So, like I always say about people in my circle, either roll with me or get rolled over. Because at the end of the day, what this has said to young Black children, children who are Muslim, children who are Indian, children who are from the Middle East, children who are white children, what this is saying to them, like she stated, and I echo, is the possibilities in the United States. And those people are going to eventually die off. Yes, you're going to have those who are going to come willingly, those who are going to come kicking and screaming, and those who are just going to ride until they die off.
Yeah.
So yes, to answer Gary's question, I will say that I do think that we can get to the point where we can, what was the way he said it, truly think the nation can come together to a significant degree. Of course, that's relative, but yes, I do think that we can. I think it's going to take some work, and as someone says, I do think that now that Biden and um, MVP, Madam Vice President elect is here, I think they have to be the one to extend that. I think they have to take the proactive approach for it. But I do think that it is possible. I'm one of those people that think all things are possible. We do just have to get over that hump where we're seeing the color. We got to get over
That's
that color hump, and just come to the. I would go back to character matters. Let's go to the character of people, the morals, the values, the integrity, what we stand for as a country, because we have to restore our faith in the people, and we have to restore our allies' faith in us, because we still have to live in this world.
That's right. Hey, I want to deal with one of the comments our guest made, Rod Ashby. Been knowing him since I was 2 or 3 years old. He said, I have great neighbors, but put a sign up, and then the next neighbor put a flag up. They are great neighbors, but I'm feeling a way about people who can support him. I will pray for forgiveness. Well, Rod, let me tell you something, and that's not just for Rod, because I'm sure a lot of people are dealing with that. Gary even said, my neighbor stopped speaking to me when I put a Biden, Harris, and Qasim Rashid sign in my yard. Oh, well, he has Trump. Here's my thing, and this is me now. This is where I am. Because I'm in the middle and have been in the middle for a long time as far as being an independent, and I make it very clear, I have friends and family members on both sides. I have friends and family members who voted for Trump and support Trump and can tell you in very, very good detail why, and has nothing to do with the race issue at all. Although I understand them and I love them and I respect them, I disagree with them when it comes to that point. I also have some friends who are staunch Democrats, and some are very much liberal, who voted for Biden. And even though I thought he was the better candidate, some of the things that they said why they voted for him, I'm just kind of like, yeah, that is that is not the majority view in America. But once again, I don't agree with everything they say, but I don't pick my friends by political affiliation. Now, if I thought somebody was voting for somebody for a racial issue, racial issue that's going to negatively affect me, then we're going to have a conversation. But once again, that's one of the reasons why I developed Carl's Conversations, a safe place to have difficult conversations, right? And all that getting understanding. So there you go, Rod. Yeah, we all got to pray for forgiveness, brother. And Gary, sometimes you got to just shrug your shoulders. You know what? Like I said, some will, some won't, and so what? Anybody who voluntarily leaves my life, I wave them goodbye and wish them well. Don't let the doorknob hit you with a good Lord split you. Amen. With a D on the end. Anyway, I want to hit this point before we get out of here. And you hit it, Tia. You've been doing all my little segues this evening. I think you've made it very easy for me to host tonight's show. Thank you so much. And Heather, I'm gonna start with you with this one because I think your perspective is interesting because you are a Caucasian sister. But Kamala Harris, who is say again? Okay, I'm sorry. My wife tried to help me out and she keep me straight. I'm so glad I married somebody better looking and smarter than me. Praise the Lord. Anyway, Kamala Harris is the vice president elect. She's a woman of color, of Indian descent, and of African American and Jamaican descent. She's a black woman, and it is of great significance that she has been elected as our future vice president, and is going to have a great impact, already having a great impact on little girls of color, women of color, people of color, and I would imagine even our Caucasian brothers and sisters too, some positive and some negative. And Heather, I wanted to start with you to get your interesting perspective on what does that mean to you?
I'm tearing up right now. It's incredible. It's incredible. I voted for, I voted for Hillary a few months ago. Lord, years back. Not because I liked her, but because I didn't like the other person. But I was aware at the significance of having a woman on this big ticket. And when Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, I could listen to her talk all day. She just has a way of motivating and inspiring and encouraging. And, I don't really care what she's done before. I care that she sees what's going on now. I think like what Tia said earlier, sometimes you got to see the evil stuff and the bad stuff to be awakened and be jolted back into reality. I feel, at least from what she's sharing with us now, that she sees that and she wants to be part of changing that. And when I was watching her, acceptance speech, I cried because she was so very careful to make sure she included all women and girls. And she didn't say, I did it, this is so exciting. She gave all the honor and all of the respect and all of the winnings back to little girls and the brown and Black women who had brought her there. And that was, out of this world, incredible. I do know it is freaking some people out. And I love it. But I've seen a lot of, I think there needs to be a shakeup in this country. I just think that. And I'm going to write about it and possibly do a short video. But I was thinking, just even yesterday, a lot of the comments that I see on some public articles or news stuff that are talking about her. And some of the things that I see the most consistently are women, especially, are really quick to say, well, she's not Black. And I want to say, in America, she is Black, by the way.
Right.
I don't know if you like it. We had rules about that a long time ago. It still sticks, but whatever. Does it matter? But it does, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what was your point? That's one thing that I've heard. And there's been a lot of disparaging remarks, a lot from white men who have said, I think she's trash and she got there in inappropriate ways. So I don't know her background. I don't want to know. I don't care. But I find it interesting, and this is going to be really painful if you're a white man. I'm sorry. And if it hits you in the place it's meant to hit you, then maybe, you have some thinking to do. But it's concerning to me and disgusting to me that some of the biggest consumers of pornography are the same people who are trying to speak out against a woman who is stepping into a position of power that is highly and well deserved, and to try to smear her name by speaking about things you know not of in a public space while also claiming to love the same God that I love is abhorrent to me. And I think she is in a phenomenal place to do big things, and she has a lot of riding on her shoulders, but a lot of people who are supporting her. And to boil it down to that being the reason you don't like her, that's not the reason you don't like her. You don't like her because she's a woman and she's Black, and that's the only thing you can think to say. And I would encourage, especially all of my fellow white people, that if that has come out of your mouth or you put that on the internet, that you need to apologize and you need to cut it out, because she won this because she deserves it. And I think I'm excited that I get to be alive for this. This is incredible stuff. And kudos to her. I can't wait to see what she does. And also the people are saying that this is just a ruse with Biden to get, because he's going to die. And she's great. I think it's fantastic. If he passes away, then great. She can step on into the role. And I think they're both smart enough that they've had that conversation. I don't think he's stupid. And I think she's ready to go. And I think it would be fantastic. So anyway, I just got on my soapbox there, but I've been frustrated by the way some people have handled her response. And I just want to give her credit where it's due, because I think it's fantastic. And even for white girls too. Little white girls are excited because there's a woman and she's doing her thing. So I'll stop talking and let somebody else talk at this point.
That was significant input. Lee, what do you think?
I'm glad Heather touched on that. When I saw the memes and things that negative about Ms. Harris, it really made me mad, made me upset. And I think the one that I saw that made me just furious was it had Ms. Harris pushing Mr. Biden in a wheelchair and then pushing him off a cliff. And I just thought that was just taking things to the next level. When I think about Ms. Harris, I think of the future. I think of this as a clear glimpse of what our future politics are going to look like, as far as color, as far as diversity. And, in years past, we really never focused much on the vice president. And I think that Ms. Harris, with her character, with her initiative, with her drive, I think this time in history is going to be the first time that we're going to hear from our vice president, that she is going to have a powerful voice. It's not going to be that voice like we've heard before where they're always in the background, but I think that she is going to play a more significant role where she is standing side by side rather than in the distant past. And in some instances, I believe that Mr. Biden is going to ask her to run things and be in the forefront of things. So I'm excited. I believe that this is just going to be a glimpse of what the future is going to look like. And so I'm looking forward to these 4 years, and then the next 4 years, and the next 4 years and beyond, because I think that we are turning a corner in politics, and it had to happen. It started with Obama, and we had that. In your life you have a oops. So we had our oops for the last 3.5 years. So now let's get the country back on track. And so with Miss Harris, I believe that she is going to represent what our future is going to look like. And she is going to stand tall, stand strong, and just be a great example to what our nation can be, and get us back on track so that the world respects us, that we can respect ourselves, that, like it's been mentioned, little girls, little boys, they can respect themselves before they can hear a speech that is just intelligent, just so much. I believe that she is going to step up and be a true leader, and I'm excited. I can't wait.
All right, appreciate that, brother. Miss Tia, I'm sure your perspective is going to be like a lightning bolt also. Go ahead.
You already know it. So I pray for Kamala. I pray for her. Because although this is it's made such a huge impact historically, Kamala has a weight on her shoulders. And I agree with Lee in the point that she's going to be critical to Biden over these next few years, because when you think about criminal reform, she's touched on that. She worked that sector for a long time, as a lawyer and as a prosecutor. I think she was. Also, when you think about healing, uniting the country as far as culturally and ethnic groups, I think she's going to be critical there. And someone else mentioned, and I was thinking about this, when you're thinking about HBCUs and how they have been kind of falling back, and now there's starting to be a discussion about them all of a sudden again. It's interest in them now. I think even with that, just from the smallest initiative to the biggest one, I think she's going to play a critical role. I do want to talk about, though, how when you talk about the memes, one of the ones that has been pretty popular and I've seen a few times, is her sleeping her way to the top. Whenever it's dealing with a woman, you always have these things that rise up. Oh, she slept her way, those type of things. And so I, and that's why I say she has a weight on her right now, because people are looking at what the impact that the first woman vice president is going to have. And it's going to set the precedent to, if we're going to ever have one anytime soon in the future. So trust me, they're going to be watching her like a hawk. Every move, she has to be intentional in everything that she does. She's going to have to be calculated. She's going to have to really think about what her moves are, because people are watching just to discredit that position. Oh, this is why we shouldn't have a woman in the White House, as a vice president or president. So I think that's why I say I pray for her. And it was something else. Oh, when she gave her speech, she really did call out, and I thought it was brilliant, white women, because she knew that all of the attention was going to be that she was a black woman vice president. And even though historically that is significant, she wanted to make sure that she unified all women and brought that back, so there's not a divide. It's like, okay, yes, historically this is true, but let me bring it back. This is big for all of us as women. And she recognized that. So I think that we have to pray for Kamala, and And I think that I am excited to see what she's going to do. And I'm excited to see the.
I think we lost Tia's audio. Yeah, her video and audio got the best of it. We'll come back to her. So, teacher, you had something to say, right?
Yes. I too think that Kamala Harris, Kamala and Biden are going to do a wonderful job. I think it is going to be groundbreaking, as you indicated, that he is going to be like a father that is needed to help heal the country. I think that she is going to be a magnificent running mate to be able to assist him because she comes from a diverse background. I think they're going to do wonderful things together to pull not just white and black, but all ethnicities, as she indicated in her speech. It's going to be about bringing people together, reaching across the table to the Republicans. I think they are just going to do a phenomenal job working together to help heal our country, because right now it is really broken and fractured, and for so many different reasons. But I think they're going to do a great job working together. I think it is phenomenal that she has been the first female vice president, or the vice president elect. I think this is the 100-year anniversary of the women's suffrage rights. So this is so groundbreaking for many reasons. I think she's, again, going to do a phenomenal job. And I think that they will be able to help the broken country that it is and restore everyone's faith here in the United States and across the world.
I want to say something. I think we have to better be careful. Of course, we know the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. I'm going to come back to you, Terry, as soon as I'm going to let you finish what you started. Yes, she is the first woman of color to be the vice president and the first woman to be elected vice president. And yes, there have been some very, very nasty things said. And I'm going to deal with that. The scripture tells us that God is not mocked. And whatever a man sow, that also shall he reap. Be very careful. We speak many times what we don't know. I've heard some rumors about Miss Harris that I wouldn't dare repeat because I don't know her. Mm-hmm. And so anything that I repeat about her would be second, third, fourth, fifth, 125th hand information. And I'm not going to besmirch anybody's name and or reputation based on unreliable evidence. And let's just say that I did know that she actually did perform herself like that. I still wouldn't tell nobody, because we all have an opportunity to grow. There's certain things about my past that I thank God that he has hidden from the public's eye. There's some things going to be between me and thee. I love my wife, but some stuff I ain't telling. If she asks me, I'll tell her, but don't you ask me. Because I won't lie to her. But for those who feel so footloose and fancy free about, smearing Vice President-elect Harris and anybody else for that nature, you may want to make sure that your house is built out of brick.
Oh, yes.
And not glass. I often tell my wife, I say, well, listen, I'm going to tell you something. If anybody is able to come tell you anything about me that you don't already know, let me tell you something. They were there and they were doing it too. Because when I was doing my dirt, I never did dirt with observers. I only did my dirt with equal and willing participants. So they're willing to sell themselves out. So for all of you who know so much about Kamala, how you know? How do you know? And once folks start telling the truth about you, what will we learn about you, sir, ma'am? Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something. I've been lied on. That's not a good feeling. My name and my reputation have been besmirched to a place where it brought tears to my eyes. I had to defend myself on stuff that anybody who knows me would know. No, Carl wouldn't have said that. Carl wouldn't have done that. So I know what that feels like. I'm not going to add on to that. Whether I agree with her policies or not, whether I agree with her party or not, she is the vice president-elect, just like the former vice president-elect who is now leaving office. Even though I disagreed with some things about him, I respected his office, and I'm going to respect hers. And Tia, I'm going to let you finish what you started, my friend. You there, Tia?
I'm not even sure if this thing is working anymore. It just keeps kicking me out. I don't know why. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Make sure you unmute yourself. We can't hear you, Tia. You're muted.
I unmuted it and then it muted me back.
Okay, there we go. There we go. All right.
Oh.
All right, Tia, we're going to have to catch you when we get all that squared away. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's some technical difficulty. Don't worry. I'm going to invite you back again. Yeah. I'm going to invite you back again soon, and you can say everything you want to say. How about that? Well, listen, before we get out of here, and we're right at an hour and a half. It don't seem like it, but we're at an hour and a half, and I do respect your time. You guys are business owners, and I wouldn't dare share my platform with you and not give you an opportunity to tell somebody a little bit about yourself. I forgot to do it with the Friday Night Crew. So the Friday Night Crew, y'all, please forgive me. Charge it to my head and not my heart. We're going to start with you, Mr. Lee. If you would just give a shout out about yourself and the things that you do so people know what you do, who you are, and how to contact you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed myself. So Lee Mooring, All About One Leadership Consulting. We have custom leadership development courses designed for you, designed for your organization. Also, recently, what we've been doing a lot of is videos. So if you are interested in getting some videos done for your organization, whether it be some commercials or events, just give us a call. My website is allaboutone.com. Once again, that's allaboutone.com. Look us up. Our contact information is on there. So once again, we offer videos, photography, leadership development, you name it. Give us a call and we will.
All right, and let me tell you,
away.
Lee has done some work for me personally and for several of the groups that I belong to. My name is Carl Armstrong, and I vouch for Mr. Lee Mooring and his work.
I second.
And his character too. Him and his wife are awesome people. We support them. All right, Heather, here you go.
So I have COVID, so I can be so active on Instagram, putting information out.
All right, hold up.
there.
We had to mute you, Heather. Your sound went crazy. Do me a favor. I want you to drop off and come back, and we're gonna get Tia in the meantime. Hold on I'm gonna unmute you. Hold on. Go again. Let's see what happens.
I'm telling you, Extreme Yard has.
Yeah. And Heather, drop off and come back, all right? I want people to know who you are. Hey, Tia, go ahead. Go ahead, Tia.
We talked about them too much. She does. There's internet goons after us, man.
That's right.
That is.
I want you to tell the audience about your businesses and how they can contact you. I don't want you to be on this platform and people don't know about what you do and how to contact you.
Right. And really quickly, the last point I was going to make is that before I do that, is that realistically, Biden is the oldest president coming in that we've ever had in the United States. He's 78 years old in a week or so. And so the likelihood, even through the first term, he'll be 82 if he finishes out this first term. And that has never happened. Other than that, Ronald Reagan, I think he was about his age right now, exiting the White House after his second term. So I think when Heather say people are freaking out, I think that's a real thing. That's a real reality check for them. Kamala, Lord forbid anything ever happens to Biden, the idea of her being president and having to take over is not that far-fetched. So that's big. So that was the point that I was going to make as far as with the meme. But yes, I am Tia Terry. I actually am a hairstylist and a makeup artist here in the area. So I look very forward to working with Lee. I just actually launched my own hairline. And this is both a passion and a purpose for me, empowering women, empowering people, pouring into people, edifying people. I love doing that. So it is truly my calling and how I minister and how I operate, and just having that level of flexibility has allowed me to even do my activism and everything all the more. I worked for the government for 16 years doing cybersecurity, and I am prior military Army, and I was miserable sitting behind a desk just doing cybersecurity. And so I kind of stumbled upon this passion. So I am one of the few people who was fortunate enough to be operating in her purpose and her gift. And I just thank God for the opportunity to be able to be hands-on in the community. And that has provided me the gateway to be able to do that.
All right. Thank you. All right, Heather, with the Sound Mind Collective. I hope it's going to be better this time. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Phew. I won't sing. All right, I'm gonna control myself. So yes, I changed my little name when I went out and came back in, because that's my Instagram. You can find me that way on Instagram. I'm trying to be better about keeping up on Instagram. During COVID, it kind of changed everything, obviously, for lots of people that were wanting to do. I had proposals and stuff that have gone out, waiting on contracts to do education and activism within the school system, board of supervisors, police departments. And I think all of that will still happen. It's just timing with getting people together and what that all looks like. So in the meantime, what I'm working towards and what I'd like to do is I've been on lots of phone calls where I've kind of been the, I don't know what you would call it, the liaison, I guess, for friendships, for organizations who are dealing with issues of difficult conversations and issues with race in their families and friends and organizations. And I love doing that kind of thing. So I'm going to be offering webinars that people can pop on and have some hard conversations, and but also get some, for white people, to get some practical ideas and some things to think about how to make a difference in your own life, rather than just consuming all of this information about how racism is affecting people around us who don't look like us. What do we do with that information? Just learning it doesn't do much, except for create a lot of really guilty white people that walk around and kind of are annoying because now they're frustrated with themselves. So I like to give some practical ideas of how they can utilize their own lives and relationships and friendships and power in their jobs to make a difference. So I'm doing webinars and more articles and lots of good things to come. So I hope you'll follow me. That feels so strange to say. Follow me on Insta. Mind Collective.
Wait a minute. Heather's trying to outdo me with the whole tag of the stuff. Wait 1 minute.
Well, are we friends on Facebook, Tia? I think we might be, because I have white people hair. So, I don't know anything about black hair as far as what's great or not. But I've seen her pictures on Facebook, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, y'all, her before and after pictures, dear Lord, this woman is incredible. I'm blown away. I would run to her in a second to get my hair done if I needed, if it applied to me. So just I don't know if my opinion matters at all, but just wanted to say, fantastic photos.
If I had some hair, I will let Tia do it. And if you can make me some, holler at me. Look, maybe we can take some off my back and put it on my head, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway,
is at Lala Amore Beauty, so you guys can follow me as well. That's LalaAmore Beauty.
There it is. And I also want to vouch for Heather. I've interviewed her before. I'm gonna come back to you, my friend. The Sound Mind Collective is an awesome deal. Hey, listen, Gary Holland was on with me on Friday night. Him and his wife own Blessed Hands. They do a tremendous job. Oh my God. You need to check them out. That's why I put that up there. Also, my buddy Rod Ashby, he gonna DM me some information. But here, this boutique, he had another one up here. Let me make sure I get it right. Law Boutique PLC. And Rod, if you get me some information about it, brother, I will absolutely promote it. We got to help each other. And I'm down. Listen, there ain't no competition. All of us can get this money. It's plenty of money. It's plenty of work. And you know how we're going to do it. We're going to do it by helping each other. And I am down with it. I want y'all to know, I'm sure I've probably told you this one-on-one, but I'm going to tell you on the air in front of everybody. My platform is your platform. If there's anything that you're trying to promote, I absolutely want to help you. Just let me know. And you can get on these airwaves. And I want to say something. Listen, my homegirl, Crystal Harmon, on this Saturday, the 14th of November from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Serve. They're going to be feeding some families in the Stafford area. They're taking donations. If you watch my Facebook platforms, Heart for the Community Initiative, Carl Armstrong, my personal page, and also I'm going to put this on the Carl's Conversations page. I'm going to be blasting this all week. They are taking food donations, and they're also taking monetary donations by way of gift cards. So Crystal Harmon and the Serve organization, they're right on Upton Lane in Stafford, Virginia, right across the street from the Stafford Courthouse. They doing big things, and Heart for the Community is down with them. I know Gary, he's working with them too. I think through enough, I let Gary speak on it, but we want to make sure that we get down to help Crystal Harmon and that organization. And also my church, Spirit of Truth Deliverance Church, on the 21st of November, the Saturday after next, we're going to be feeding 25 families. So anybody want to do a little donation, come on, let me know. We're going to get these people fed. All right. This is what we do. My panel, I love you. I appreciate you. I respect you. Tia, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say about that because church as well is we partner with food banks, so we are also a point of contact for food, because during this time, especially with COVID, you've had people who are six-figure incomes who are now finding themselves with zero income. So yep. Food security is real right now in this country. So please get engaged. It doesn't just stop with casting your vote. There's always constantly things that we can be doing in the community. And I always use the hashtag, we got us. We can't wait on the government to rescue us. We have the resources to do it within this community. And I think that having the excuse that you don't know is no longer acceptable, because so many people are out here foot soldiers and putting things on social media. So let's not turn a blind eye. Let's get out there and start attacking some of these issues from the ground level. And I appreciate you all for letting us be on this platform. Heather, I want to commend you as well. Heather's been in this fight when it wasn't even popular for a white woman to be in this fight. So right. I appreciate her steadfastness, and I pray God continues to cover her and keep her, because I just imagine the target that is on your back stepping out like you are. So I know I went above my time, but I wanted to make sure I stated those things. And you guys and Lee, I'll be reaching out to you, because we got some collabing to do, bruh.
It's all good. I'm sorry I had cut you off. I'm coming right back to you, Lee. I had cut you off, Heather. Did you have something to say? Okay, you're good. Lee, go ahead, brother.
Okay, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Stafford NAACP. They have a business event coming up on November 18th from 4:30 to 6:30. It's online. If you go out to the Stafford NAACP Facebook page, it's the Next Gen On Purpose cohort. And what they're doing is they are collaborating with the Black Chamber of Commerce. And it's a webinar that's coming up. And it's basically for Black and Brown businesses, business owners. And basically they are going to talk about selling to the Commonwealth, positioning your business. So basically the talk is going to be about selling to not only the community, but to the state. And so some valuable information. The NAACP Next Gen cohort, they are a group of young individuals that have gotten together and put together this project. They're doing some research in this area. They have a questionnaire. So if you go out to the Stafford NAACP Facebook page, you can get more information out there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that. Hey, listen, anything that y'all want me to promote, Please, when we finish this, go to the thread, or either on Carl's Conversations or on my page, and just put it into the comments, and I will absolutely promote it for you. Okay. Hey, listen, I want to give a shout out to my homegirl, Alisa Middleton. She was on the panel also on Friday night, and she reps the United Black Council and 2 Mics Up. She is awesome. So, Alisa, we got you, homie.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, if anybody is looking for some homemade ice cream, hit me up.
All right. Teacher, she gonna start that business. Listen, panel, God bless you. We truly, truly love you. We appreciate you. And audience, thank you. Please spread the word. Carl's Conversations is a safe place to have difficult conversations. We're trying to make this thing happen, not only in our community, but in your community too. So until next time, have a great evening. May God bless you, and may heaven smile upon you. Bye-bye.